A bright September sky. Blue, clean, almost gentle. Then, an explosion that doesn't sound like a bomb so much as the world tearing open. Glass rains down in a glittering storm. Paper erupts into the air like startled birds. A shockwave punches through a Manhattan Street canyon and people freeze, mouths open, eyes lifted, watching a wound bloom across the face of a skyscraper. Inside the tower, the lights flicker. Ceiling panels drop. The floor shudders as if the building has been hit by a giant fist. Smoke pours into hallways where seconds ago someone was laughing into a phone, someone was refilling a coffee cup, someone was stepping out of an elevator thinking about a normal Tuesday. Now it's screams, it's alarms. It's a smell, burning fuel, burning plastic, something metallic and wrong. And somewhere above, trapped floors have become sealed rooms. On the street, a man in a dress shirt looks up and says the first thought that crosses almost every mind in the first seconds. It must be an accident, because the alternative is too big to fit inside the brain all at once. A woman near the World Trade Center clutches her bag like it can anchor her. She looks at strangers for answers, but no one has them. People begin to run, then stop, then run again, pulled by the same instinct that says get away, fighting the same instinct that says you need to see what's happening. Sirens start up like a chorus warming its throat. Across the city, in offices and kitchens and schools, televisions click on. A news anchor stares at a live feed, voice tight with disbelief. On the screen, the North Tower of the World Trade Center burning near its upper floors. Flames lick outward. Smoke pours into the sky in a column so thick it looks solid. Some viewers lean closer, some cover their mouths, some pick up their phones and start dialing numbers that won't connect. It's still early, Tuesday morning, September 11th, 2001, and the day is just beginning to learn what it is. In a firehouse not far away, boots hit the floor. Men and women yank on gear with muscle memory sharpened by years of drills. Radios crackle with fragments. Aircraft, tower, fire, multiple floors. A firefighter tightens his chin strap. He's been to high-rise fires before, but this is different. You can hear it in the dispatcher's voice. Too fast, too strained, like she's trying to hold back panic with professionalism. The trucks roll out. Sirens slice through the city. As they approach Lower Manhattan, they begin to see it. An ugly black plume that doesn't belong in a clear morning sky. Someone in the cab says quietly, almost like a prayer, "Dear God." At the base of the towers, the air turns gritty. People stream out of the plaza and side streets, faces gray with dust already settling. Some are bleeding from cuts made by flying glass. Many are barefoot, shoes lost in the sprint away from the burning building. There's a sound that keeps repeating. A distant roar, like a giant blowtorch, the fire feeding on jet fuel. Police officers shout directions. Keep moving, north, keep moving. But it's hard to move when your eyes keep dragging upward. In the windows far above, silhouettes appear, tiny against the massive grid of steel and glass. Some wave. Some press against the glass. From the ground, it looks unreal, like a film playing too loudly in a public place, and then, in the crowd, someone points to the sky. Not to the burning tower, beyond it. A plane approaches, low and fast, cutting across the skyline at an angle that makes no sense for a passenger jet. People squint. They can't process what they're seeing. A few seconds stretch like rubber. A man whispers, "No, no, no." Inside the second tower, the South Tower, people have been watching the fire in the North Tower from their windows. Some are on the phone, describing it. Some are already leaving. Crowding, stairwells, faces pale but still clinging to the idea of accident. An office worker grips the railing and descends step by step, the building vibrating slightly with distant sirens and the muffled thud of something catastrophic happening next door. Then a new sound arrives, closer, louder, growing rapidly. It's not an alarm, it's an engine. Outside, cameras are rolling, helicopters hover. The entire city seems to be holding its breath. The plane, United Airlines Flight 175, slams into the South Tower at around 9:03 a.m., carving into steel and glass with a blast of fire that blooms outward in a violent orange ball. The impact is so huge it looks like the building flinches. A wave of heat rolls through the streets. Debris, metal fragments, insulation, paper, erupts into the air and begins to fall, fluttering down like snow that burns when you touch it. On live television, in real time, the story changes shape. Not accident. Attack. Deliberate. The realization hits, with a coldness that spreads through the body faster than fear. People scream and run harder now, not away from a fire but away from a war they can't see the edges of. In apartments and offices across America, hands fly to faces. Someone drops a coffee mug and it shatters, the sound weirdly small compared to what's happening on the screen. On the streets of New York, the sirens multiply. Firefighters rush toward the towers, disappearing into smoke and dust and falling paper, climbing into a catastrophe that is still unfolding. And in the air above the city, unseen by most, other planes are still in flight. In that moment, nobody knows how many, nobody knows where. Only this: the sky has become hostile, and whatever comes next is going to change everything. The streets around the towers turn into rivers of people. They move fast, then faster, then sprint, because the air itself feels like it's chasing them. Above them, the towers burn in two different ways, two different wounds. The smoke is thick enough to dim the sun. Sirens are everywhere now, layered so densely the sound becomes one endless scream. At the edge of the plaza, firefighters disappear into the lobbies, into rotating doors and shattered glass, entering a world where the ceiling rains debris and the stairwells fill with heat. Inside, the stairs are crowded. People descend in lines, shoulder to shoulder, passing firefighters climbing up, heavy gear, oxygen tanks, axes swinging at their sides. Across the river in New Jersey, people stand on rooftops and parking lots and watch Manhattan burn as if the island has caught fire from the inside. On ferries, commuters stop mid-commute, mouths open, staring. Some are thinking, "My spouse works there." Some are thinking, "My sister, my friend, my father." Some are thinking nothing at all because shock is a kind of silence in the brain. In hospitals, staff begin clearing rooms. Gurneys line corridors. Doctors pull on gloves and look toward the doors, bracing for what they assume will be a tidal wave of injured people. Ambulances arrive. But the wave is strange. Not what they expected. Not yet. In a different part of the country, in an air traffic control center, a controller leans toward a glowing screen and feels his stomach tighten. He watches a flight's transponder disappear, watches a plane turn when it shouldn't, watches radio calls go unanswered. The sky, which is supposed to be ordered, routes, altitudes, schedules, has become a question. And the question is terrifying. How many more? Orders start to ripple outward. The Federal Aviation Administration makes a decision that would have been unimaginable hours earlier. Every plane in U.S. airspace is told to land. Now. Pilots receive the message in cockpits thousands of feet up. Divert, descend, put the aircraft on the ground. On the ground, people in airports look up at departure boards that suddenly mean nothing. The country is closing its own sky. At the Pentagon, just outside Washington, D.C., it's an ordinary morning in a building built for war and routine. Phones ring, paperwork moves, people walk hallways carrying coffee, carrying folders, carrying the weight of jobs that feel steady until the moment they don't. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 hits the west side of the Pentagon. The impact is brutal. Metal and fuel and force colliding with concrete and steel. Inside, the world becomes fire, collapsing walls, black smoke that turns hallways into tunnels. Office workers stumble and crawl, hands outstretched, feeling for doors they can't see. Some help others. Some scream names. Some push through heat so intense it feels like the air itself is burning. Outside, first responders race toward a building that has been attacked in a way most of them never believed they would witness. In New York, the towers are still burning. In Washington, the Pentagon is burning. And somewhere in the air, because now everyone understands the pattern, another plane is missing. Back. In lower Manhattan, the sound changes. It's subtle at first, like the building is groaning. Then it becomes louder, deeper, a structural scream. Steel, heated by fire, begins to weaken. Floors sag. The weight above presses down. A firefighter on a lower floor hears a sound that makes his skin go cold. Something he can't name, but knows is wrong. Radios spit overlapping voices. Confusion, urgency. Shouted orders that don't match what everyone is seeing. Outside, people run again. Not because they're told to, but because the tower itself seems to be warning them. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapses. It doesn't fall like a tree. It folds into itself, floor after floor, becoming a roaring avalanche of concrete and steel. The ground shudders. A gray wall of pulverized dust surges outward, swallowing streets and people mid-run. Visibility drops to nothing. Dust fills mouths, noses, eyes. Strangers drag strangers behind doorways and walls as the ash pours in. For a moment, the world is colorless and quiet, not peaceful, but crushed under the weight of what just happened. And still the day isn't finished. On United Airlines Flight 93, passengers learn in fragments what's happening in New York. They understand the truth. This isn't about demands. Their plane is meant to be a weapon. They make calls, last I love yous, steady voices that hide panic, and then decide, together, that they will not wait. They move. They fight. The North Tower collapses. Another roar, another avalanche. Another gray wave surges through streets already coated in ash. When the sound fades, the emptiness feels unreal. 2 towers gone, a section of the Pentagon in flames, a field in Pennsylvania scarred. Phones won't connect. Airspace is shut down. A nation watches, realizing the world has split into before and after. After each collapse, the city turns to ash. People stumble through doorways, shirts over faces, eyes burning. In the gray, strangers shout names into nothing, then cough until they can breathe again. The quiet between those coughs feels impossible, like the sound itself has been buried. Hope becomes an act of breath held. American flags appear on helmets and barricades, clinging to the scene. In the hours after the attacks, the president moves between secure locations surrounded by aides speaking in low voices. On board, maps are spread across tables. Someone says, continuity of government. Someone else says, we don't know if there are more attacks. On a screen, the collapses replay. Rewound, replayed, each time landing. When he finally addresses the nation, his words are firm, but the shock behind them is audible. The government is functioning, and the response is coming. The language grows enormous. A war on terror. Intelligence and law enforcement buildings fill with controlled panic. Screens glow. Printers spit names and numbers. Agents chase money and calls and travel. A face is pinned. To a board, Osama bin Laden, already known to U.S. intelligence, now impossible to ignore. The picture hardens. The hijackers, many from Saudi Arabia, trained and organized, tied to Al-Qaeda, a network that had declared war on the United States. In New York, families flood missing person centers, holding photographs like they're holding hands. People keep writing phone numbers on flyers because stopping feels like accepting silence. Elsewhere, fear looks for targets. A Sikh man is shoved because someone mistakes his turban for terrorist. A Muslim mother grips her child tighter on a subway, hearing whispers, "Watch her." Them. A wounded country lashes out. Officials talk about Afghanistan and the Taliban sheltering Al-Qaeda. Demands are made. The Taliban does not comply. On October 7, 2001, the night sky over Afghanistan flashes as cruise missiles and bombs strike al-Qaeda and Taliban targets. Operation Enduring Freedom. Americans watch grainy footage. Soldiers pack duffel bags, candles burn at memorials. Routine begins to rebuild itself on the assumption that danger is always possible. Then fear changes shape. It becomes envelopes. Powder leaks through paper in mailrooms. Buildings evacuate. A word most Americans hadn't spoken becomes common. Anthrax. The rules change fast. Airports become rituals of suspicion. Shoes off, belts off, bins sliding forward like offerings. We Muslim families learn to keep walking when slurs are thrown from car windows, teaching children that hatred can be casual and still cut. The war in Afghanistan moves fast, then becomes long, complicated, uneven. Over time, it turns into background noise until it returns in folded flags and engraved names. In 2011, in Abbottabad, Pakistan, a raid ends with Osama bin Laden dead. Some people cheer, some exhale. But closure doesn't arrive the way they expect, because the aftermath was never only about one man. It was about fear becoming policy, policy becoming habit, habit becoming identity. September 11th did not end when the towers collapsed. It spread into laws and airports and wars, into bodies and families, into how strangers look at each other on a subway, into the permanent argument between safety and freedom. And when you stand beside the memorial water and listen to it drop into the void, the sound is not only mourning, it is a warning, because the world built after that morning is still the world we live in, and the question that rose through the smoke keeps returning, sharp and unavoidable. What comes next, and what are we willing to become to stop it?